Hello. Today, indeed, I am going to introduce the constitutional law and especially the topic Introduction to Constitutional Law. We have the topic and prerequisites to understand in today's lecture what are the contours of Constitution and constitutional law, making of the Indian Constitution, salient features of the Constitution. We have specific objectives of this lecture to understand the difference between Constitution and constitutional law, to explore and appreciate the historical background of the making of the Indian Constitution, and to know the foundational features of the Indian Constitution. Now we have to understand what is Constitution and constitutional law. If you'll see Constitution and the constitutional law differences, you have to understand basically certain important points. Especially when we are talking about the Constitution, Constitution is nothing but the document, or we can say the statute or the fundamental statute which defines the different functionaries, including executive branch, legislative branch, and judiciary. It also defines how these three different wings of the governance, they should work, they should administer the justice, they should execute all plans and policies, how judiciary also provide administration of justice. So that is important contours of Constitution. But when we are talking about the Constitution and constitutional law is the extension of Constitution and interpretation of constitutional provisions. It includes its ambit conventions, practices, and decisions interpreted by higher judiciaries regarding Constitution. For example, if judiciary is giving certain interpretation based on the Constitution and constitutional provisions, that becomes part and parcel of constitutional law. Say for example, Indian Constitution consists different articles, and now presently 470 articles, including 12 schedules. If today Indian judiciary, apex court of the country, is interpreting Article 21 and saying that Article 21 also includes right to privacy, so this particular judgment is part and parcel of constitutional law, which is nothing but the judge-made law. That is basic difference. Constitution indeed is the law in rest. At the same time, constitutional law is the law in motion, because Constitution is talking about, or Constitution specifically state that different articles, that what is relation between state and center, or what are the different fundamental rights of the citizens, who has to protect or who have to protect those fundamental rights of the citizens. So that is stated in the Constitution. But the judiciary interprets the Constitution and extend the different meanings to the existing provisions of the Constitution, and automatically we can say that extended meaning of any provisions of Indian Constitution is nothing but part and parcel of constitutional law. So in nutshell, we have to understand what is exactly Constitution and constitutional law. So basically, the basic difference in constitution is constitution and constitutional law is constitution talks about the different provisions. Constitutional law talks about and includes in its ambit different conventions, different practices, different interpretations which are given to the constitution. Making of the Indian constitution, and in this process we have to note about certain important points. The Constitution of India was drafted by the Constituent Assembly, which was constituted as per Cabinet Mission Plan 1946. The Constituent Assembly elected for undivided India and held its first meeting on 9 December 1946. At the same time, the members of Constituent Assembly had been elected by indirect election by the members of Provincial Assembly. At the same time, after partition on 3rd June 1947, separate Constituent Assembly for both India and Pakistan was constituted. On 31st October 1947, the total strength of members of Constituent Assembly was 299. The Constituent Assembly of India met for the first time in New Delhi on 9th December 1946. As we were discussing, some of the important points in making of the constitutions are the Constituent Assembly took almost 3 years, that is 2 years, 11 months and 17 days to complete its historic task of drafting of the Constitution for independent India. As to its composition, members were chosen by indirect election by the members of the provincial legislative assemblies according to the scheme recommended by the Cabinet Mission. On 13 December 1946, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru moved the objective resolutions as we were discussing earlier, as he was stated, and he was stating in this objective resolution how exactly the governance of the country will go ahead. There are very important salient features of present Indian Constitution. Very important salient feature, modern Constitution, because our Indian Constitution that had been framed from the experiences of different other constitutions from all over the world, including American Constitution, Canadian Constitution, Australian Constitution and British Cabinet system, which is based on unwritten Constitution. So based on different experiences from all over the world, our Indian Constitution that had been made by the Constituent Assembly. So it is also called as modern Constitution. Indian Constitution is also called as longest known Constitution of the world. Indeed, Indian Constitution has distinction of being the most lengthy and detailed constitutional document. When it was adopted, it was having 395 articles and 8 schedules. But now it is having 103 constitutional amendment acts and containing 417 articles, 70 articles and 12 schedules in our present Indian Constitution. There are also other important salient features of our Indian Constitution, like our Indian Constitution is flexible and rigid Constitution. It is written Constitution. So when we are talking about flexible and rigid Constitution, it means Indian Constitution can be amended, but the process of our amendment of the Constitution is very, very cumbersome. Outrightly, the Parliament of the country cannot amend the basic fundamental features of our Indian Constitution. Our Indian Constitution is also written Constitution, unlike British unwritten Constitution, because our Indian Constitution is consisted in one document, unlike the British unwritten Constitution, because in Britain Constitution is not written like our Indian Constitution. In Britain, Great Britain, Great Britain, the Constitution is spread in different judgment law, in different convention. So it is not given in one particular document, unlike Indian written Constitution. But in India, we have written Constitution. At the same time, justiciable fundamental rights are also the salient features of our Indian Constitution, because these fundamental rights which are guaranteed by Indian Constitution, those are enforceable before court of law. At the same time, directive principles of state policies are non-justiciable. It cannot be directly enforced before the court of law. At the same time, judicial review is also the salient feature of our Indian Constitution. When any particular act or any particular administrative action is going against the Indian Constitution or constitutional provision, then judiciary, High Court and Supreme Court, different High Courts and Supreme Court can see and examine those particular acts and different administrative orders of executive branch. Socio-economic justice is also important, significant features of our Indian Constitution. Fundamental duties which are enshrined in our Indian Constitution under Article 51, capital A, is also important segment of our Indian Constitution. Parliamentary form of government is also significant features of our India and Indian Constitution, where the Parliament driven different ministers who are also the member of Parliament can become part and parcel of executive branch in a ministry, and they run the government. So in that context, it is said that parliamentary form of government is also important feature of our Indian Constitution. Secular state is also yet another important significant feature of our Indian Constitution. Federal system with unitary feature is also yet another important feature of our Indian Constitution, where two tier of government at the center as well as state, they work together. At the same time, we have unitary feature like emergency, in case of emergency, national emergency, then financial emergency, state emergency, power, it comes to the center. Whatever powers which are exercised from the side of different states, those come directly to the center. There are certain questions to be remembered. Question number 1, discuss salient features of Indian Constitution and discuss the process of making of the Constitution. Thank you.